Dun, dun, dun.
Face the audience, Tucker. You're alarmed.
Is it supposed to start when you say one? There are a bunch of things that are not allowed at work that should be. We're going to chronicle those coming up.
Now is author Daren Martin.
Culture is the game. You don't change the culture, you don't change the company.
Great cultures over the course of 10 years will yield a 746% increase in your net profit.
Holy moly!
1% in the top 1% is worth 12 in the bottom 1%. Called the culture architect for a reason.
We need to get into it.
Okay. All right. We're back. Welcome to Company Culture with Daren Martin.
And Elise Martin.
And the great Elise Martin.
That's me.
Yes, that is you. So we're actually recording two of these.
Right now?
Yeah, no, never mind. I'm going to get into it. So there are all sorts of things that we've been talking about that are not allowed at work that should be. I mean, we're very fortunate that we work for ourselves, so we get to kind of make up our own rules as we go along. Meaning if we want to go to the movies in the middle of the day, which, by the way, we still need to go see A Star is Born.
Ooh,
and
Lady Gaga.
It's feast or famine with movies because a few weeks ago there was nothing on that we wanted to see, and now there's like
But I feel
4.
like they save all the movies for Christmas time.
Yeah, for the holidays.
And summer.
There's
summer.
a
So all the good
method.
ones are always coming out in the summer.
Method to the madness.
Yeah.
But you know, we have the flexibility to be able to do whatever we want to do just within our work environment. A lot of people don't have that. So we were originally going to do a show on just mindfulness and meditation, right? Because that is getting to be more of a trend in companies. But it kind of prompted us into, there's a lot of things like you're not allowed to take naps at work.
Or read.
Why? Wait, hold on. Why are you not allowed to take naps at work?
Because people think that you are irresponsible, didn't go to bed early. It's like school, like taking naps at school. Why aren't children allowed to take naps? You know what? Kindergartners are allowed to take naps at school?
Yes, of course they are. And there's a reason that cultures that have the whole siesta thing, that they have that, because there is something to be said for middle of the day, you just had lunch. It doesn't need to be a long time, but a quick power nap.
20 minutes, 10 minutes.
But if you're caught sleeping, for example, at your desk, pretty good chance you're going to be fired or roundly reprimanded. I know some companies actually have like nap rooms, but all of the research says that when you go into nap mode or you go into rest mode or you go into meditation mode, that what happens is there's this thing called the default mode network where your brain is actually problem solving at a more significant pace, that it's firing in some really creative ways. You know, we've talked about this before. You go to bed at night, you have a problem, you can't solve, you wake up the next day and you have it.
Right.
So there's something about that rest period of just taking some chill time. But if the boss walks up or somebody walks up and you're doing this at your desk, or not even that, let's say you're not even sleeping, but you're just doing this.
Just having a silent moment.
Their question's going to be, what are you doing? Why are you not clicking away on your computer?
I know, but then do you want to encourage people to pretend to click away? Because eventually,
but that's
pretending,
what happens.
Did you see that article you sent me this morning about the man who 3 years?
No.
How long was it?
6 years. He did not go into work.
Nobody
for 6
noticed.
Years. He was working a government job somewhere in, I think it was Italy or somewhere. Where government jobs are very much in abundance. And so he did not go into work for 6 years. He's drawing a paycheck, okay? And nobody notices. You know how they caught it? You know how they figured it out? They were going to give him an award for the amount of years of service that he had done. And they couldn't find the guy. They're like, who is this guy? Where is he? What? And then they realized,
did he die?
Did he die? Has he been kidnapped? What happened to him? No, he just decided to quit coming to work. 6 years ago. I'm sorry. That guy,
he was a Spanish civil servant. 6 years.
What was his name? What was his name?
His name was, I cannot pronounce this, Joaquin Garcia?
Joaquin Garcia.
Spanish civil servant. And they said...
I don't know if he should be given some sort of award or, I mean, you talk about the movie Office Space. This guy was living it. But
right? 6 years of getting a paycheck and not going to work and nobody noticed.
So I heard of another person who worked at 2 different advertising agencies full time, okay?
What?
Down the street from each other. And because it was just such an open environment, this is not at all what the show is about today. We're, but see how many days you cannot go to work and not be noticed. The point is, people should be, should be evaluated based on outcomes, not activity. When you are not giving people the space at work to kind of just, chill for a little bit, there may be some of the best ideas, some of the greatest creativity that comes out of that. People are either team players, they're either fantastic and they're either people that you want to have on your team or they're not. And if they are, there's got to be a lot more freedom. For example, you said read. Are you allowed at most companies to sit at your desk and read a book? Especially
if it's related to your job field, right? I had a manager.
That was a question.
Right?
Are you allowed at most companies to sit and read a book? No, absolutely not. People
Why? Read on your own time.
What are you doing? Well, I'm reading a book. Not only that, but thanks to the great IT world, they cut off things like access to YouTube.
And the internet.
What if I want to watch a video on how to install SAP?
What if I want to watch a video on how to build a desk as an admin?
Right. Or, hey, how to problem solve this or that. So they cut that stuff off, blogs you can't read, etc. So reading is pretty much at most companies just right out.
But that's the most ridiculous thing ever. Don't you want your people reading? Don't you want them learning new things, implementing new things, keeping you up to date? I mean, and why should they have to do it on their own time?
Yeah, absolutely.
When they're reading about the job you pay them to do so that they can do the job for you better. Now, they shouldn't have to do that on their own time.
I get not reading.
They should get to go home and read a romance novel if they want or watch a movie. I get that you shouldn't watch a movie at work unless it's related. Again, why couldn't you watch movies at work?
Hey, why not put everybody in a conference room and have a little lunch and learn and watch a movie like Remember the Titans if you're trying to build teamwork, or watch a movie like The Founder if you're talking about ethics sort of in business, or watch the movie on Enron.
Idea.
Why don't we watch movies at work? They could be some of the most instructive things just about life and about business. Other people's money. That'd be a fantastic movie to watch at work. But that's generally viewed as just sort of goofing off, right?
Yeah, but you have to get out of this what's considered goofing off. I mean, it's you're thinking in the past. This is not the 1950s. Innovation, creativity, painting could be a good thing to do at work, right? Playing bocce ball could be a great way for a manager and a staff member that are not getting along to get along. I mean, there's so many things that are considered taboo, like we can't do that at work. We're wasting time. We could, but
okay. What about this one? Sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, but I had one more.
Okay,
which is a great idea that I've seen implemented. Why not have people teach each other their job? I know everybody wants to keep hold of their own job. I don't want to teach anybody how to do it, because if they know how to do it, they might replace me one day, right?
Yeah, and that's just smart business.
That's just stupid. It's stupid not to share. It's not just that. We had the art guy when I worked at a magazine. At D Magazine, and he did a Photoshop class, right? Photoshop 101. Now he's not a teacher. He knows how to use the program. A lot of us want to know how to Photoshop our own pictures, right?
I think if a company started their own little university where they were teaching things it could be things like, PowerPoint or Excel, but it could also be, creative things like Photoshop or
we had one where they
Instagram
taught Google Drive,
cloud,
how to use the cloud, and a lot of older staff members don't know how to use these things, right?
Most companies greatly undervalue education, mind expansion, giving people room to sort of learn. They'll send them to that annual conference, right?
And then expect them to come back and teach the entire staff everything.
Yeah, or just they come back and kind of nothing. Mm-hmm. But why do you not have an ongoing training as a part of that? Okay, what about this one? It's 10 o'clock in the morning. I have a meeting with Fred, right? Fred and Susie. So I say to Fred and Susie, hey, listen, look, instead of meeting at the company here, why don't we go down to the local coffee shop and let's have our meeting down there. It's off the premises.
Okay.
It's off campus.
Okay.
And so we go there and we have this 2.5-hour meeting.
Right.
Okay. If that meeting were in a conference room, nobody would question anything. But if you leave the premises, then all of a sudden it's like, well, where were you? Well, we went to a coffee shop. Well, what? It's work time. Why'd you go to a coffee shop? Well, we're meeting. What difference does it make if we meet in the conference room or we go meet at a coffee shop?
Cavemen.
I used to have
and women.
An individual. He was an executive that I was doing some coaching for this company. And if our coaching session was at the end of the day, say, around 4 o'clock or whatever, he'd be like, come on, let's go. And of course, he was very senior with this company and he could pretty much do whatever he wanted, which maybe everybody could, do that as long as they're producing for the company. But so we would go grab a drink. We go to a bar. It'd be like, come on, let's go to a happy hour and we'll have our coaching session there. Now you can say, well, what a goof off. It wasn't. It was actually extremely productive being out of that work environment. It's got a beer in them. There was a little more openness, and it just created a different kind of coaching environment. So he had the liberty to do that, but obviously most people in companies don't. They can't say, hey, look, let's do this last meeting. We're going to go down and, grab a little happy hour and we'll brainstorm there. When in fact, some of the best movement I've seen in companies happens over a glass of beer somewhere where you get this cross section of people that are getting together. Right?
And there's a flow over to that. So here's another thing that is taboo in companies that people don't want to do is drinking at work. Why don't you have beer in the fridge? Why don't you have alcohol? I'm sorry, every good company, unless they're like AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, should have some kind of alcohol in the fridge.
I don't know if AA is actually a company.
Or, unless it's that place.
Or if it's an organization.
Or so something that,
you've worked in companies where they do have beer in the fridge. And then I've been at somewhere, if you brought a bottle of wine to someone as a gift.
Closed?
You could you could be fired, right?
Wow.
No alcohol
That's
allowed
ridiculous.
on the premises.
Yeah, and there's a lot of companies like that.
There's such a fine line, but it used to be common course. Obviously, you have to.
It used to be in the 50s, right? 60s, it was three martini lunches, right? But nobody's talking about that now. We're talking about adults,
yes,
right?
Absolutely.
Just because you work from home and you have beer in the fridge doesn't mean you're drinking all day long, right? Because you couldn't get anything done anyways.
Okay, what about taking off in the middle of the day to go play on a softball league or to go to your kids' performance at school? What about that?
Why not? I mean, why not? Wouldn't it make you, if you're happier, won't you work better? We've already seen the science of this, right? Happy workers perform better. So the average worker works, they do 8-hour days and they actually put in 3 actual productive hours.
Well, because
right?
there's interruptions, there's so much lack of engagement, there's all of that stuff going on. But if work has invaded home a long time ago, how many people are expected to answer emails on the weekend?
Everybody.
Or go into work on the weekend. I know companies where people go in on a Saturday just to get caught up on their work, et cetera. So if work is going to invade life, if work is going to invade home, you got to expect home to invade work a little bit, which means I got a doctor's appointment. Okay, great. I've got a doctor's appointment.
Right.
Or
let them go.
I'm doing some community service over at this place for, a couple hours a week.
Yeah. And I'm not saying don't shut people down when they're taking advantage of the company. There are people that have a doctor's appointment every day, and it turns out that they're interviewing somewhere else. I mean, you just gotta, at the end of the day, you need to hire the right people, right? You
hire the right people, and then people manage to the way that you're treating them. So I read about a company. It was union based manufacturing, and the bosses walked in one day. And they looked up at the big time clock that everybody had to punch. And they said, this is demeaning. This is beneath the quality of the people that we have here. Why in the world should they punch a time clock?
Right.
They'll show up for their job. They're going to do their job, and we'll leave it at that. They took the time clock off the wall. So at first, the union was very suspicious of this. Like, what are you doing? You're going to use this as a bargaining chip or what's going on? They're like, no, we just want to treat our people differently. You know what happened?
What?
People came to work earlier. Okay, once they were treated like adults, their absentee rate or their late rate actually went down because people said, "Whoa, hey, I'm a responsible human being, and wow, you're trusting me. I'm going to take care of you as a company." So a lot of those rules and regulations that we have are partly responsible for why we have a 29% engagement rate at a typical company. I mean,
Right. If somebody's
company
happy.
of owners is all about that.
I agree.
Because we're not having a partnership, a relationship with the employees at work, and we've got all of these taboo, don't do things, and they're things that are really just a part of life that are kind of silly that we don't have them. I mean, all of the greats down through history. Let me change that. Many of the greats down through history, including Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, people like that who've built these huge companies, swear by meditation. They say meditating is one of the best things that you can do to just sharpen your mind.
If you can't let them or afford a pod to let them take a nap, let them meditate. What's the harm? I mean, 15 minutes. It's like a break, right? Take a break.
Not just let them, but let the company have the company
encourage people to eat their lunch outside of the office. Leave. Go to lunch. Go sit in a park and eat. Don't sit here at your desk, right?
You raise a great point, though. Kindergarten, right? Mm-hmm. You have snack time. Mm-hmm. You have play time. Mm-hmm. And then you have work time where we create and do. Mm-hmm. But it's just one big joyful kind of experience.
It's supposed to be. Not all kindergartens are as exciting. Some of them have, very bad,
public service
all you mothers know.
announcement
All you mothers know.
Elise Martin.
You
actually worked at one for a while.
I worked in a KG, yes, and a pre-K.
Horrible.
And I know that they loved me to death because I was the happiest camper teacher. When actually the teacher I worked with, I'm not going to name the pre-K, but the teacher I worked with, let's just put it this way: when she was sick, the students did this. Yay! Miss Elise is in charge, because all we did was play. Everything was play. So imagine if we pushed play at work in that way, right? Where
even learning is
right.
play.
Where even work is play, where even learning is play, where everything is play. Why did we lose it when we were children? Why did we lose it? I'm so totally pro all these things we lost when we were growing up.
Because think how many things were built or ditches were dug or things were created as a child. I mean, I was constantly coming up with new inventions and putting stuff together and using all the tools to create and build. I mean, there's a reason that Legos is one of the, maybe the best-selling toy ever, because it's very creative and it inspires that. And you don't have to tell kids to play with Legos. They just play with Legos because it's fun and they get to put something together. If work were more like that, when work is more like that, because there are some companies doing it right out there, guess what? Man, it's a whole different ballgame. It's not that whole, thank God it's Friday sort of abysmal thing. So there are a lot of things that you're not doing at work, and you're not doing for some really stupid reasons, okay? You're not doing because, well, back when we tried that and, it didn't work. Or
just because you tried it once and it didn't work.
One person violating the principle, and then they just take it away. And that's a mess. That's a disaster. We were at a hotel, actually, a year or two ago, and I was talking about all they had planned for 1,400 people to be at this event. Okay. Only 700 showed up. There was a weather thing, something. So they had all this food. Right. And I said, well, that's awesome. So you guys are going to, take that like to a shelter or something. You're going to make sure the food doesn't go to waste because why just throw it away? And they said, no, we can't. We throw it away. I said, wait, what?
Why?
They had given it to a shelter, and a homeless man or a person at the shelter got sick off the food, presumably, and sued. And so they said they had a policy moving forward, just not going to do that.
Afraid of getting sued.
Yeah.
It's American disease suing
That's not smart business.
It's like the reason Tucker can't go on the Cathay Pacific flight from Hong Kong. I'm sorry. It's one person who took an untrained dog, right? Did not control their animal, and that dog scratched that poor child's face, right? Now, they were responsible for taking care of that. Now, why is my dog forbidden to go, even though he's well behaved, right? Even though I'm going to watch out for him because one person, you see what I mean?
Tucker's better behaved than most people on that flight. So
Tucker's better behaved than most people generally.
okay, so a little shout out for Cathay Pacific not allowing us to bring a puppy on the plane.
Right.
Okay, hey, you want to Martinize something?
I do.
Let's-
Is that the entire list? What about pets at work? Pets should be a lot of work. I talked to someone who said that his dog used to come with him to work and it would actually relax him.
As long as they're well behaved.
As long as they're well behaved. It's just
right?
like
as
your
long
friends.
as they're not pooping in the
You
hallway.
can't bring your drunken college buddies to your office. I mean, let's just think about people shouldn't go to work if they're not well behaved, and neither should animals.
Yeah, I agree. But when it's a 2.5 pound puppy that will sit in its little thing.
In my lap or in his bed. I mean,
Actually, some companies are doing more of that. They are allowing pets.
if you
to be
make
brought.
the work environment the way the person wants. So if you imagine that my perfect environment is different than your perfect environment, if I'm allowed to turn my space into my little sanctuary paradise, I'm going to perform at a better level. If I'm allowed to light the candles I want, that the scents that make me more productive, right? If I'm allowed to bring my little pup and sit him next to me, if I'm allowed to have, it's like having the coffee you want, having the sandwich you want, having the
It's really about having people who are self-governed, because
Yes.
if you think about what we do, who tells us what time to start work in the morning?
Nobody.
Who tells us when to stop working?
Nobody.
Who tells us what to get done that day?
Nobody.
Okay. I mean, we self-manage, right?
Right. But there are days when
And
we work.
if we just decide we're done, and we knock off early and go do. But there are plenty of days that we may still be doing stuff until 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night. Or I've gotten up, couldn't sleep, 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm writing a book or coming up with something. Work really ought to be more of a natural flow instead of it being that way. How would you work at home? Well, we bring our pet to work, right? If you want to go down and have a snack in the middle of the day, you go down and have a snack. If it's time for what you call beer 30, then, you pop open a beer, right? We know that we're not going to build our business if we're not doing some of these other things, but we really make those a joyful, fun experience. That's the way work should be, just in general.
Yep. And I think that all the big corporations need to take a look at this, because we're moving into an economy and we're moving into generations that don't want to work where they're unhappy, where they're bored, where they're all going to go start their own businesses. I was just talking to a man yesterday, and he was saying, a woman, and she was saying her brother was working for a big corporation. They're paying him well, but he decided he wants to open his own business. So his plan is to work X amount of, months, and then he's going to start his own business, even though it's not going to be as lucrative to him in the beginning. But the point is that he's unhappy. So if you don't take a good look at your culture today, these people are going to start their own businesses. And guess what? Times have changed. People are not going toward big name brands. People are moving towards small boutiques, supporting their communities, smaller stores to buy their stuff. They're not going toward the bigger brands anymore. And there's a reason for that. So watch out.
Watch out. Another public service announcement from Elise Martin. Okay. So, one of the things, first of all, we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to hear what is not allowed at work that should be allowed.
Yes.
Reach out to us. You can leave some comments on YouTube. You can leave it on the podcast.
If you're a big company, you don't know how to change or what changes you can make, reach out to us too. Happy to help.
Absolutely. Love to talk about that. Okay, now are you ready to Martinize?
I am. Now I'm ready. Go for it, Martin.
Car insurance. I'm done. I'm so tired of car insurance. I'm so tired of the illogical nonsense that is you pay X amount to take care of your car. Now, I mean, we are living in downtown, uptown Dallas. We sold my car. We're thinking about, or in the process, I think we're going to do it when we go to Thailand.
Selling
we're
my
going to
car.
sell your car, right? And we're going to be carless. And it's not primarily because of the insurance, but it's one of those great irritants that instead of like most businesses where you pay to play, you pay as you go. If I walk into a restaurant and I eat a meal, then I pay for the meal. but we're paying the same if the car is sitting in the garage
Basically,
for
it's like a
3
gym
months.
membership you pay if you're going
Yes,
or you're not going.
exactly.
Yep.
So, and by the way, no, I'm not going to do the thing where you put something on my car and track my usage and track my mileage and track, how many times I changed lanes and so on and so forth.
I mean, if you pay as you go, obviously, if you get stopped by a cop and you haven't paid, you're going to be in trouble. So,
well, and look, I haven't had an accident in a long time.
it's
There was
not fair to the people who don't have accidents that they have to pay for the people who have had. I'm sorry, am I
Yeah,
interrupting?
it's just illogical. I don't think the whole system makes a lot of sense. Insurance is geared around protecting you against a mishap in some way. Well, obviously, if you are using your car 10% of the amount that somebody else is using theirs, they're putting 30,000 miles a year on the car. We probably put 4,000 on a car a year.
No, but not even that.
Just because we don't use it that much. Why in the world we would be paying the same rates as somebody who is doing heavy usage? I don't know, but it's time for a change. Time to fix it.
It's already getting fixed there. In Japan, the pay-as-you-go car insurance is taking off.
It just makes too much
long
sense.
shot.
So
it's just like the siesta is taking, like every other country in the world understands nap time everywhere. But in America, we don't. I don't know why. And I think it's time for us to catch up with everyone else.
yeah, metric system.
Time to catch up.
I'm just kidding. Okay, that's it. That's a wrap.
A wrap.